Evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call this meeting to order. First order of business is disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Mark?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, E2, I have the drain on Sparta Line and Harvest Bowl discussion. I will back out of that because I'm on the director, so. Thank you.
Okay, so noted. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Max?
I declare pecuniary interest in agenda item D, public meeting, rezoning application of Marion Wallace, resolutions 2 to 5. Do I have to give the reason?
Yes.
Anyway, reason our daughter and son-in-law were involved in a previous severance of this property.
Okay, thank you, Max.
Thank you.
Jess, is there another one? Did you not? Oh, just Max. Oh, say, sorry, Chester. The minutes of the council held on September 16th. Was there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, mover and seconder for those minutes, please.
Move it.
Linsky and Moore. Sorry. Serna and Moore. All in favor? Carried. We should welcome our new Director of Fire and Services, Jeff Spoor. Jeff, for your first meeting, welcome. Next, we have a public meeting. Purpose of the public meeting is an application to sever two existing dwellings in a surplus result of a farm consolidation. Applicant's name is Marion Wallace, property located at Part Lot 1516, Concession 7, Geographic Township of South Dorchester, known as 48550, 48670 York Line. So mover and second of public meeting concerning zoning bylaw amendment application of Marion Wallace relating to property located at Lot 15 and 16. Concession 7 be called to order at 7:32. Mover and seconder. Widner and Jaguar, all in favor? Carried. Alice, can you confirm the method and date of notice, please?
Through you, your worship, the notice of the meeting was given in the prescribed manner by the publication in the Elmer Express on September 15th and 22nd of 2021. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were sent a notice by prepared first-class mail that was posted 20 days prior to the meeting.
Thank you. Adam, can you give us an overview of the application?
Thank you, your worship. The owner has obtained approval from the Elgin County Land Division Committee for consent to sever two existing dwellings as being surplus to the farming needs as a result of a farm consolidation. As a condition of the approval of the two applications, the zoning bylaw amendment is required for the severed dwellings and retained farmlands to be regulated as per the requirements of the provincial policy statement, as well as the official plans for the county of Elgin and the township of Malahide. The subject zoning bylaw will place the retained farmlands into the agricultural A2 zone, so to prohibit the establishment of any subsequent dwelling. The amendment will also place the two severed dwelling properties into the small lot agricultural A4 zone. Correspondence was received from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority indicating that it has no objections, and we did not receive any other correspondence in addition to that piece.
Thank you, Adam. Any questions from council on the application? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, a public meeting related to the zoning bylaw amendment application of Marion Wallace relating to the property located at Lot 1516, Concession 7, be adjourned, and council reconvene at 7:35. Mover and seconder. Bittner, Jagger, all in favor? Carried. Mover and seconder, report number DS 21-43 entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application, Marion Wallace be received. That zoning bylaw amendment application number D14Z08-21, Marion Wallace related to property located at South Part Lot 1516, Concession 7, Geographic Township of South Dorchester, known municipally as 48550 and 48670 York Line, be approved for the reasons set out in this report. Mover and seconder. Lewis. Cerna, all in favor? Carried. And finally, mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-67, being bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 1822, insofar as to relate to the property owned by Marion Wallace, located at lot 1516, concession 7, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Widner and Jagger, all in favor? Carried. So this is a little unusual, but we're going to move into closed session and then come back into open session. But we need to discuss this in closed session. So I need a mover and seconder to move into closed session. During the closed session, council received information subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose and the personnel matters about an identified individual, including municipal, local board employees, and this item will be discussed further in the reports section under the Chief Administrative Officer. Next, we have, are you looking after the road department?
One report, but I believe Bob Lopez is on Zoom and will be presenting the first couple reports.
Petition for drainage, Bob? There's a petition for drainage on Sparta Line, Bob. Can you expand on that one?
Good evening, your worship, members of council. As council is aware, the public works staff have identified areas along Sparta Line that may need an illegal outlet for water to facilitate proper drainage of that certain sections of the roadway there. At its regular meeting on September 2nd, council directed staff to prepare and sign the necessary petition to initiate the process. The purpose of this report is to, the fulfillment of that obligation and to appoint an engineer to prepare the drainage report for council consideration. There are no existing municipal drains in the immediate area on Sparta Line that can be utilized for any drainage there. And the staff are recommending that John Spreet of Spreet Associates be appointed by the council to prepare a report to address the Sparta Line petition. It being noted that the Township of Malahide is looking to have a new extension connection on the municipal drain that is currently being considered for this area. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Bob. Questions for Bob on this municipal drain? Seeing none, mover and seconder, report number PW 21-49 entitled Petition for Drainage Sparta Line be received. John M. Spreet, a professional engineer of Spreet's Associate, be appointed to prepare the engineer's report for the Sparta Line petition. It being noted, the petitioner is requesting the petition be incorporated into the engineer's report currently being prepared by the butters petition for Sparta Line. Moore and Lewis, all in favor? Carried. And the drain in Norton Street, Bob?
Yes, so this second report, the purpose of this particular report is to advise council the need for a municipal drain at the end of Norton Street in Orwell that will require the township to petition for drainage. The township has received a complaint from a resident at the end of Norton Street in the hamlet of Orwell. During significant rainfall events, water is flowing from the roadway down and causing erosion on a laneway that's on private property. And this is creating access issues for the landowner. We've inspected the area in question and found that there, due to the lack of curb and gutter or storm sewers along this steep grade, water is outletting down the roadway and causing continual washouts on his private property. Again, there are no existing storm sewers or municipal drains in the immediate area at that end of the street, and that can be utilized for drainage. So we're recommending that staff recommends that the Director of Public Works be authorized to file a petition under the Drainage Act on behalf of the township, where drainage works are required to provide us with a sufficient legal outlet. So we're recommending that we sign a petition for that.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Questions for Bob on this one? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, report number PW 2150, entitled Request for Authorization for Road Authority Petition for Drainage, Norton Street, be received. Director of Public Works or his designate be authorized to file a petition for drainage under Section 4 of the Drainage Act for future drain works on Norton Street. Mover and seconder. Glinski and Serna, all in favor? Carried. Telecommunications, Adam. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so at the September 16th meeting, Council directed staff to prepare policies to facilitate internet projects in municipal right-of-ways. I did work with the county engineer who had earlier this year provided a new agreement template to County Council that was adopted, and that template was modeled after an agreement template in Middlesex County. So that agreement essentially allows for municipal liabilities to be covered when any telecommunication company is installing the necessary conduit and fiber optic cables buried within the municipal right-of-ways. So the agreement template is modeled very closely to what is provided currently and as recently at the county. There are some minor differences with the fee structures, and particularly I'm recommending that our permit process limit such permits and such agreements to projects that have no more than 6 kilometers of linear conduit being installed. That would allow staff to be able to review appropriately sized projects and make sure that the fees that we incur can cover that review time. For all other remaining matters, it's very similar to the county agreement template. I have provided in my staff report what a lot of the sections speak to. If there's any questions or comments from council, I can answer those.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Questions for Adam on this one? Donnie?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Through you to Adam, can you confirm then that, because I know the intent of the county policy was to make it accessible and fairly easy for any ISPs who wanted to work in the township. So would you say that's also the spirit of what we're adopting?
Yes, I believe what council directed staff to do was model the processes very similar to neighboring municipalities. I believe that's the intent, is to make sure that staff does not need to overly scrutinize these projects. The applicant or the company is putting, they give us the information to review, and through this agreement, we can rest assured that the liability and the onus and the responsibility is on the telecommunication company to do it right.
Okay, any other questions? Chester?
Mayor Manel, when we talk about 6 kilometers, is that from the tower? And if so, how much of the township will not get any benefit from this? Does anyone know?
Through you, Your Worship, what this policy speaks to is a communication comes to the township and wants to bury fiber optic cable in municipal right-of-ways. And what our fee structure allows is our staff will need to go out and physically inspect that installation, that stretch of roadway where the conduit's going to be installed, make sure there's no physical obstruction. So that does take time, staff effort, and correspondence and communicating with the applicant. So the applicant can pay for or apply for as many permits as it wants, limitless kilometers. It's what we're looking at here is administratively, for one permit, that limits an application to 6 kilometers of conduit. If we are comfortable moving forward in a year or two that we could look at longer installation projects, then we can adjust that accordingly. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it still leaves me wondering if everyone is going to have service, and I think I'm hearing that everyone isn't going to be receiving this service. I thought that was the idea behind this, so that it would be all-inclusive and everybody would have the benefit of having service.
Chess, I think you're a little confused. This is not supplying interconnectivity to all the township. This is regarding to the service providers and the conditions that the service providers would have when they're putting conduit in the ground. And so this is a fee and limits them to their application. This is not anything to do with the towers. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Any other, Mark?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at paragraph 11. Kind of alludes to the fact that it's okay, they'll bury this in the ground, but if we had to move it to redo a road, would it be at our expense?
I could follow up with you on that answer. I don't know if the agreement speaks to that. What I would imagine, and I can certainly confirm it'll have to be after the meeting, but I think is what this agreement requires is it stipulates that another company is putting their own conduit, their own infrastructure into a roadway that we own. I would believe that we require it to be at a certain depth beneath the surface. It can't be too deep, because if it's too deep, it would interfere with, say, some water mains or some gas lines or something like that. I think if we have to do work to our own road, I would assume that if there is a conduit in the way, there would be procedures, and the municipality would be obligated to contact the owner of the fiber infrastructure in this example, and make sure that it take whatever precautions necessary to move it. But I would think that it would be the onus would be on the municipality. If that infrastructure needs to be moved for township purposes, I think that would be a township responsibility. But I can confirm following the meeting.
Yeah, I was just reading paragraph 11. It kind of alludes to the fact that the third party's got to pay for it if they want to use. So anyway, you can check into that. We can get that later. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, report number PW 2156, entitled Review of the Draft Township Telecommunication Equipment Consent and Road User Agreement be received. The council approve the form and content of the draft telecommunication equipment consent and road user agreement, and authorize it to use in relation to the telecommunication equipment installation projects within the road allowance under the jurisdiction and or the ownership of the township of Malahide. Mover and seconder. Widner and Jair, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next we have a harvest bowl. Adam, you're dealing with that one?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I am. So council will recall, on behalf of the Harvest Bowl, Donna Lund making some requests to the township for the South Dorchester Community Hall and the fire station on Lions Line. The requests summarized our storage for trays and food slicer processor, building a walkway between the kitchen exit and their food hydrator behind the building, use of one fire truck bay in the fire station. So those were the three requests, and we worked with both our community, our facilities coordinator and our acting fire chief, and also what was also volunteer firefighters were canvassed at that station about what their requirements would be. So I did work with our acting fire chief and Chris Cox, and Jeff is here as well. But what we have added is, or recommended, that provided some checks or balances are in place, in particularly a memorandum of understanding. In theory, their requests could be met and they could proceed. Generally, we are a bit concerned about how their occupation of the building in general has expanded. It might be beyond the original intent and purpose of both the fire station and the community hall. What I do want to add is Donna Lund did reach out to myself this afternoon. I followed up with her. She has had an opportunity to read the report, and she wants to reiterate that they do not want to use the fire station site on a regular basis, but on very rare circumstances, weather permitting, where it's snowy outside or cold or raining or what have you, they would open one of the doors and use that. Regardless, especially on the fire station side, if council desires to grant the Harvest Bowl some of their requests, I do think that it should be on a renewal period of 1 year and subject to a memorandum of understanding. So all these checks and balances can be clearly stated and required and outlined in the memorandum of understanding about what can and can't occur in the if they were to use the facility. So I will leave it there. If there's any questions or comments, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Adam. Questions or comments to Adam? Just one, and I certainly endorse, and I know the township endorses what Harvest Bowl is trying to do. It's a great service to our community. Because their service is expanding, I think the message has to be out to Harvest Bowl that they should be looking at another location that's not right in the middle of emergency services. God forbid anything ever happened where services were delayed, but there is that potential when you start to expand the way they are. So certainly for the time being, I'm in full favor of continuing with their operation, but I think the message has to be sent out that Harvest Bowl needs to be looking for another location. So if everyone was happy with that, then we will send that message on, but certainly for the time being, because they've got things going on and they've got commitments, we don't want to stand in their way, but they do need to look for another location. So, mover and seconder, report number PW 2157, entitled Harvest Bowl Project, use of station number 4, South Dorchester, be received, and there was a recommendation from staff, so I need a mover and seconder for that. Linsky and Cerna, all in favor? Carried. All right, where are we? Permits, Adam, software permits. Mark, you back?
Thank you, Your Worship. So what this report is seeking direction from council is to allow staff to utilize the single source procurement in our procurement bylaw for the purchase of what's referred to as cloud permit. It's, as I've stated in the report, it's the one piece of software. It's being widely implemented in many municipalities similarly sized as Malahide rural or small town building departments. It's focused on building departments, and especially has that front-facing feature that allows our building community, our weekend warriors, our developers to apply for their permits at any time of the day, night, evening, what have you. check the status, change their drawings, and it provides great efficiencies for our building services staff as well. So just seeking council support for this resolution.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Questions for Adam on this report? Moving to second report number DS 2149, entitled Purchase of Building Permit Software be received as information. Municipal staff be authorized to proceed with a single source award for the purchase and implementation of cloud permit building permit software. Moore and Lewis, all in favor? Carried. OPP renewal. Adam?
Yes, so nothing further to add to my report.
Okay. Any questions to Adam on the renewal? None. Mover and second report number CAO 2113, entitled OPP contract renewal be received. Municipal Council proceed with the adoption of bylaw number 21-77, authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign an amending agreement in order to extend the contract with the OPP until the 31st of December 2022. Lewis and Cerna, all in favor? Carried. All right, COVID vaccine.
Thank you, Your Worship. As council is aware, the COVID-19 virus and the increased transmissibility of the Delta variant has led to recent advice from our public health authorities and recommendations of both the federal and provincial government that all employers be encouraged to be proactive and consider mandating a vaccination policy for employees. Gwen and I have provided the recent communication from Southwestern Public Health into the report. At its last meeting, council considered a staff report and passed a resolution directing staff to develop a vaccination policy for tonight's meeting. And following that resolution, Gwen did provide township employees with advance notice that a policy was being developed and that any employee could speak with their supervisor or self about any comments or concerns they might have. Working with staff in the county as well as the local municipal CAOs, Gwen and I have prepared such a policy for this evening. Although the proposed policy is attached in its entirety, it proposes, firstly, that all active employees, including members of council, staff of contractors, and consultants acting on behalf of the corporation and performing work in township facilities and or buildings, it goes on, volunteers, including members of the township's fire department, interns, and students, be subject to the policy. Also, that those subject to the policy submit proof of vaccination status, rapid antigen test results, or an approved exemption and meet the requirements outlined in the policy. And then lastly, that the township provide access to an administration of rapid testing at no cost to such unvaccinated individuals subject to the policy up until Monday, November 22nd of this year. So it's recommended that the policy is drafted be introduced to all township employees, including volunteer firefighters, effective October 11th, 2021. That all individuals outlined in the policy be required to provide proof of vaccination status by October 22nd, 2021. That those individuals who indicate that they have not been vaccinated or who do not disclose their vaccination status by October 22nd be subsequently required to attend a mandatory education session on the benefits of vaccination and become subject to additional safety measures, including antigen testing. And as of November 22nd, 2021, which is 4 weeks after the requirement to disclose proof of vaccination status, any individual subject to the policy who remains unvaccinated without an accommodation request shall obtain a negative rapid antigen test at his or her own expense and outside of working hours in accordance with the policy. Gwen and I did provide commentary in the report about financial implications, and at this time, that largely has to do with the administration of rapid tests for employees. I'll end my presentation there, and I am able to answer any questions. I will also note that both our fire chief, Jeff Spoor, and our roads manager, Ryan DeSutter, are also available to answer any questions that may pertain to their respective areas.
One question is, Adam, is what happens in regard to new hires?
So it is expected, and the policy has been written, that new hires will be expected to be fully vaccinated.
Okay, thank you. So that's part of the policy as of now.
Yes, and that can be clarified.
Okay. Questions for Adam? Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think the wording that if we take it from the county is even clearer in terms of, rather than being subject to the policy, it just basically says required to be fully vaccinated. So as a condition of hire. So yes, I think that amendment would help. So I understand and I agree with the idea that the testing would be on the employee's time and at their cost. Is there a way, as far as location of the testing, I could see the logistics and it could be quite cumbersome to try to book appointments at different locations. Is there a way, even past November 22nd, any consideration for us as an employer to facilitate perhaps on-site testing?
Through you, Your Worship, I think that is something that we can further consider, and the logistics would be ironed out once we have the proof of vaccination from all staff, so we know the number of staff who may require such access. So we can follow up with council and get given direction, because we don't know if it's very few numbers or if we are potentially have more employees than we might have been contemplating. So before November 22nd, so as of October 22nd, we will have an idea of how many unvaccinated staff members we'll be having. Before November 22nd, so 4 weeks after that, we can iron out the logistics about how and if it would be possible and at what cost to the township to have that access provided to those individuals on township property, for an example, the township fire hall.
Mark, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going back to page 107 of this report about the new hires. I'm still not clear on it. All new employees upon hire are required to disclose their vaccination status and will be subject to the terms of the vaccination policy. If they didn't have it, would the negative testing still work for them? Just the wording seems a bit weak.
And through you, Your Worship, I believe yourself and the Deputy Mayor's comments a few moments ago asked to clarify that new hire. So Councillor Widner, I believe the policy is going to be slightly adjusted to clarify that new hires will be required to be fully vaccinated.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, mover and seconder, report number HR 2115, entitled Proposed COVID-19 Vaccination Verification Policy be received. The municipal staff, the authorized and director would implement the COVID-19 vaccination verification policy as cited in report number H2115, entitled Proposed COVID-19 Vaccination Verification Policy, effective October 11th, 2021. Did you have a addition?
It's just simply bringing up whether if council wants to add to that recommendation or their resolution, further clarifying that new hires be required to be fully vaccinated.
As amended on the new hire. Okay. Mover and seconder. Mover and Widner, all in favor? Carried. Next, we have committee and outside boards. We have one from the complex. Any errors or omissions on that one? Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I believe I'm not listed as an attendee, even though I am mentioned as a mover of a few motions, so if that could be corrected.
Okay, so as amended. Any other questions? Mover and seconder as amended. Lewis and Glinsky, all in favor? Correspondence, we have 10 items. Anyone wish to make comment? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to point out number 7, County of Elgin correspondence advising the county will review the intersection around McNeil Line and Imperial Road. It's a good idea, but I urge our representatives on county council to make sure that whatever they do out there is substantial, because every time they do something, last time too, they just put a little bend in the road and poured the cement so that when you drove your car over there, it made a funny sound, and that was it. Now, Councilor Widner had a good idea the last time. Actually, what's needed out there is a roundabout. And I don't know how expensive they are. That seems to be the way to go, and that would probably alleviate all the problems we've ever had out there for all these years. And I think that that's what we should be pushing for.
Well, they will do a review, and then they will get back to us on what the review states, and certainly if we don't agree with it, then we can make comment. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to support number 3, access to quality eye care, which at the present time, my understanding is the province is cutting back in regards to what it's paying the optometrists and so on as their portion for proper eye checks and so on for seniors and others that have seeing problems.
Right now, children and seniors cannot get one. So I know that they've been almost frozen for the last 9 years, and that's where the optometrists are coming from, is that they don't see this as fair, and the other provinces have addressed it, but Ontario has not. So certainly I agree with you, Max. Any other questions, comments? So we are endorsing number 7 and number 3 and receiving file the balance. Moved and seconded with that. Widner and Moore, all in favor? Carried. Okay, other business. Adam, you're going to address the museum.
I
With their
certainly
paintings?
can. I didn't have anything prepared, but I can perhaps answer any questions that council may have.
Questions for Adam? Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is nice to see this project is moving forward. I would like to recommend that we just defer it to our next meeting, because when this first came to council for approval, we accepted the offer of the murals, but we did commit to consulting with the community, whereby at least the Port Bruce community would get to see what the murals look like. It's not necessarily for approval, but we had committed that it would not be a surprise. And so if we could extend the time, because now it's only been in the public for 2 days, so if we could have it out there for a couple of weeks and just pass it at the next meeting.
No, I don't think there's any issues with that. We can defer this and push it off to the next meeting and give the ratepayers or anybody in Port Bruce an opportunity to comment. So mover and seconder to defer. Jaguar, Moore, all in favor? Carried. And the Santa Claus Parade, is this, Allison, is this just information, or are we?
Through you, your worship, yes, just information that they have reached out to staff in order to have the 2021 parade in Springfield this year, and if there's any questions, I can certainly answer those.
Okay, so this is a very similar program what they had last year, and COVID is complicated.
Through you, your worship, it's a bit different than last year. Last year, they had a static setup at MCP, as well as went through the village. They didn't have the turnout through the static parade through the parking lot, so they are just going to go through the village this year.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Allison. Questions for Allison on the Christmas parade? We're always adapting. Mover and seconder, the Springfield Santa Claus Parade Committee requests for permission to tour the streets in Springfield with a float carrying Santa Claus, together with the fire trucks and Malahide Fire Services, if available on Saturday, December 4th, 2021, be approved. Copy of the resolution be forwarded to the County of Elgin for information. Moore and Widner, all in favor? Carried. And Adam, you're going to speak to the complex?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So the town of Elmer, or the complex board, is asking for a resolution from Malahide to allow them to apply for Trillium funding for rehabilitation of their parking lot.
Questions for Adam? Seeing none. Mover and seconder, the Council of the Township of Malahide supports the submission of the EECC parking lot rehabilitation to Ontario Trillium Fund Community Building Capital Stream Opportunity. Letter of support before the EECC administration for inclusion in the Ontario Trillium Fund Community Building Capital Stream submission. Mover and seconder. Lewis, Cerna, all in favor? Carried. Bylaws. Oh, Rick, go ahead.
Under new business. It's probably just as good as time as any that Catfish Creek Conservation Authority has accepted the resignation of our general manager, Chris Wilkinson. I think his last day was the 20th of September. I'm not sure. In the interim, we have appointed Dusty Underhill as the interim general manager. And Dusty certainly has his hands full there. It's, you know, he's still the park supervisor. He's taken on the general manager's position. So we haven't made anything official yet. Dusty's there till the 31st of December. But other than that, everything else, all the services that I know Malahide's come to know and love from Catfish Creek will still be there, and nothing will change.
Okay. Well,
Okay?
it's
Thank
good to
you.
hear, Rick. Where is Chris moving?
Well, he's never, like he was, still lives in Peterborough, and he used to commute for 3 years from
He
Peterborough,
was commuting.
Peterborough.
That's a long stretch.
And, well, yeah, it was a long stretch, and he did that for 3 years. So I guess an opportunity came up closer to home, and
No,
nobody can blame him for
can't
that.
blame him for that. It's a 3-hour commute,
Yeah.
one way.
He was born and raised.
Hmm. Anything else under other business? Bylaws. Mover and seconder, bylaw number 21-75, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amendment to the cost-sharing agreement for the joint sharing of a fire training officer with the County of Elgin, Town of Aylmer, Municipality of Bayham, Municipality of Central Elgin, Municipality of Dutton-Dunwich, Township of Southold, Municipality of West Elgin, Township of Malahide, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Mover and seconder, Lewis and Jagger, all in favor? Carried. Another bylaw, bylaw number 21-77, being bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General for Police Services for the Elgin Group municipalities, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Cerna and Moore, all in favor? Carried. And finally, we're going to move into closed session again. So a mover and second of the council move into closed session at 8:30 pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following. 1, labor relation or employee negotiation and or personnel matter about an identified individual, including municipal, local board employee, relating to the finance department. And 2, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose relating to the property on Avon Drive. So mover and seconder for the closed. Winder, Jagger, all in favor? Sorry about that. During the closed session, council provided the direction to the municipal staff regarding 1, labor relation or employee negotiation and or personnel matter about an identified individual, including a municipal, local board employee relating to the finance department. And 2, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communication necessary for the purpose relating to the property on Avon Drive. And there's nothing further to report about this matter. And final bylaws, bylaw number 21-74, being confirmatory bylaw, be given a first, second, third reading, properly signed and sealed. Mover and seconder. Can't go home, let's do it. Lewis and Cerna, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. And finally, mover and seconder, the council adjourn its meeting at 8:52. To meet again on October 21st at 7:30. Mover and seconder, Dolinsky and Winder, all in favor? Carried.